is The Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at RadicalRuss.com.
Take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it.
Live from Portland, Oregon, it's time for A Different View, with women's perspectives on the fight to end prohibition again, with Portland Dispensaries examiner and mother of four, Jennifer Alexander, and professional healthcare provider Iva Cunningham from Alternative Medical Choices, Inc. Now, here's A Different View.
Hello, everybody. Well, we're trying out the Google Hangout tonight. We've got Jennifer Alexander in the other Hangout room. I'm not really sure what you would call it, but and then we've got Russ, of course, working the knobs downstairs.
Working the knobs?
Well, I don't know what you call them.
Oh, my goodness.
What do you call them?
Pants check.
Wow.
Not. Oh, see, you guys go to the gutter. Get out of the gutter. Anyway, we've got an exciting show. We've had an interesting, I guess the reason why we're using Google Hangout, a couple of reasons, because this is the platform we're going to move to eventually, but also because some semi was cornering one of the bridges around here and had a big steel beam. Is that what it was?
It was one of those big steel I-beams, and
Wow.
It took out the whole bridge, basically. It's laying from one edge to the other. It actually landed on a car, crushed it, and the driver climbed out. So I'm thinking there's some miracles happening out there, and I don't want to be on the roads right now.
You know, I don't know how the driver drove. Well, if you look at the traffic report, if you look at the report for, all the arteries getting into Portland, it's just red. It's all the way. It's red everywhere. It's bad. So, and that happened at 5 o'clock traffic. So, oh well. But anyway, we had to get to this platform, so this just kind of pushed us a little faster to that.
This gives us a chance to sort of test it out, make sure it's going to work.
Right, so we've got a pretty exciting show tonight. Our first segment, we have invited an author, Edward R. Cook, who wrote the book Arthritis and Marijuana. So we'll talk to him in the first segment, and then Jennifer, why don't you give us a breakdown of the rest of the show?
Well, I have to get that window back up again. We're going to talk a little bit about what happened in Denver at the 420 Pot Rally this last weekend. There was a shooting there. We're going to discuss what's going on there and what we know and what we don't know at this point.
Right.
We were going to talk a little bit about the Boston Marathon bombing. That happened last Monday, and last week was a lot of drama going through that. A couple of issues came out where they're linking marijuana to this story. There's always a marijuana link to any tragedy. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and then we're going to wrap up the show with some DEA intimidation tactics in California.
Are these new tactics?
Well, it's not new tactics. It's just, using them again. While Colorado and Washington are writing out their state's guidelines for how they're going to make legal marijuana, California, the first medical marijuana state, had 63 different dispensaries sent warning
63?
letters. And I think 7 of them were threatened with forfeiture action. So we're seeing a lot of that sort of federal intimidation to sway the argument back in their favor.
Wow. Well, I think there's a lot of interesting things going on, and you'll see a lot of people linking stuff to marijuana, but we'll dispel some of those mistruths as we go on. I think there's music in the background. Yep, that's the cue.
That is the cue. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a moment. We'll keep feeling our way through this new format.
Working out the bugs.
It's your perfect illustration, imitation of life, where the mouth is savored.
Hi, this is Dan Michaels. If you're looking for professional voice talent for your commercial or podcast, I'm your man. Visit danmichaelsaudio.com for more information.
I'm going to just act a fool. Oh shit. Yup. Oh, you knew it was coming. Oh, goddamn. Hey, yo, women, weed, and Washingtons. The same old shit that I'm caught up in. Another day goes, another dollar spent. Another day goes, another girl I met. Another day goes, another L is lit. Another day goes for the hell of it. Another day goes for the hell of it. Yo, another day goes. I be the Dutch master smoker, writing rhymes to the doper. Got your lady on my sofa and she trying to get closer. I'm feeling wanted like a Wild West poster. What am I supposed to do? I got a quota. 1, 2, 3 to the foreplay. It was on from the moment she stepped in the doorway. Didn't even touch her, but I knew she was horny. Just by the way, when she looked, when she saw me, dressed all sexy, got me thinking all sketchy. Just in the neighborhood, and you want to come check me? Oh, how convenient. You're free for the evening. Your girlfriend's your alibi. Our little secret, the ends of your reasons to justify your skeezing. You knew me before him. It's not really cheating. Okay, hun, all said and done. Smoke these trees in. For the time being, check the song I'm singing. Women, weed, and Washingtons. The same old shit that I'm caught up in.
And now we're back with A Different View.
All right. Well,
Welcome back.
I'll have to get better at that. Anyway, well, our first segment, we've brought Edward Cook on the show. Edward Cook wrote the book Arthritis and Marijuana. Basically started as a businessman, developed a debilitating osteoarthritis, which is a very painful condition. I won't go into all the details about what that is, but you know, it's very common, but it's also very painful. Experimented with many things, and a lot of the great advice I think that he found out researching what works and what doesn't work probably end up in this book. But anyway, Edward, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you, Iva. How are you?
Fantastic. I'm doing great. So as I'm reading through this book, I mean, the title is Arthritis and Marijuana, but what I find really, what I really appreciate about the book is that it's really just kind of a guide on how to implement marijuana with a lot of other therapies that you discuss in here, on how to relieve pain and keep you flexible, especially considering if you're in pain you don't want to move. But you've added a lot to this book. What made you come up with this type of handbook, if you will?
Well, there is no magic bullet for arthritis relief. It's a comprehensive effort, and you have to do a few different things. You have to modify your behavior. In other words, if you're running 50 miles a week or something, you have to kind of scale that back. There's the exercise component, and then the medicine. And marijuana can apply to medicine and the exercise. But, I mean, you have to do a few different things, and there is no one-size-fits-all for every individual. And so that's why it works well for me, but I also took in consideration a lot of other people in the world as well.
Well, I like that you talk about the anti-inflammatory properties of cannabis, and you've done a really good job of demonstrating different things that people can do that are natural as far as stretching, tendons to stay limber. The one thing that we have a difficult time in healthcare is telling patients when it hurts, the best thing that you can do is move. Keeping yourself flexible, keeping yourself limber is going to hurt initially, but in the end, it's going to keep you limber and flexible and reduce your pain overall. But incorporating the marijuana into this, I love that you made it just part of the whole process, and emphasize that the benefits of using marijuana in conjunction with these other therapies that you've outlined here, like the aqua therapy, the pool therapy, and the rolling and the stretching and that sort of stuff. How the marijuana can enhance those other not treatments, that's not the word I'm looking for, therapeutic exercises. Can you still hear me?
Yes, it has an analgesic effect as well as a psychoactive effect, and you can feel your body more intrinsically, and it may even buzz you to a little of ambition to get moving and so forth. And as you say, fresh blood circulation, which most therapies try to do, is really what's great and what helps alleviate arthritis at the epicenter.
Well, and you know, and I say this all the time. Marijuana is not a panacea. It's not going to fix the whole problem. A lot of people who've never tried cannabis come to cannabis as sort of as a last resort, excuse me, and they're frustrated. But once they get there, they're also disappointed because it's not the panacea that they thought. Having, you know, being able to do all, you know, using cannabis, it helps you do all those other things that might be painful in the beginning, but also to reduce the stress that you get with pain or anticipatory pain.
Yeah, it also helps you concentrate. It helps you think a little more intrinsically, and you can relax a little bit. And for in arthritis treatment, you can kind of isolate and work on certain body parts, and you can relax and you know, kind of get to the positions you need to be and concentrate a little better. And that's the one thing that cannabis / marijuana can do. It relaxes you a little bit, but at the same time, it kind of buzzes you a little bit, so you can kind of, for me, it kind of, you know, it makes me inquisitive about my own body. It makes me think intrinsically, and I can relax and get some work done and really do some good things with it.
Well, I think it kind of calms the mind so that you can focus on your body and you can focus on you know, exercise. You know, I do enjoy taking a long hike and being medicated on the hike for a variety of reasons, not because, you know, because I can go further, but because I can also enjoy. What's that?
It helps your mind and your body. Exactly. No doubt of that.
Well, you know, one of the things on page 5, you wrote this. I'm just going to read, kind of paraphrase it a little bit, but it says, you found yourself chasing arthritis relief, which I think a lot of patients do. They're chasing, they're looking, and in Western medicine culture, it is a Band-Aid. You know, they're chasing the symptoms, not the cause. And, you know, you found that, you know, like, a lot of medication, but unlike other medications, marijuana had a noticeable effect and efficacy. It helps reduce your inflammation and gave you a better attitude towards pain. And I think that a lot of patients, you know, who come to marijuana, or a lot of patients who have severe pain, especially at this kind of magnitude, they there's something we call anticipatory pain anxiety, and when patients know something is going to hurt, they don't know how long it's going to hurt, they don't know how severe it's going to be, they don't know how debilitating it's going to be, and so that raises their stress level, which raises their cortisol, which also raises their pain, their feeling of the pain. Have you had much experience, or have you had much luck in convincing patients that the two work together, or have you found that to be kind of a roadblock for you when you're talking with other people who might be using or considering marijuana?
No, actually, one question that comes up when I speak to groups is, where can I get some? And, in New York State, where I'm from, it's a good question because there is no safe access here, and that's one of my missions here in New York State is to, you know, kind of stump for safe access. Whereas other states, I believe you're in Oregon, you know, you do have safe access there. There is a method, but as far as I think people are driven by, you know, chronic pain. They're willing to experiment and try things, and they want to take care of their chronic pain. And if marijuana can help that, they will experiment. And,
well, you know, another thing that you're a veteran, and you talk a lot about the VA in here, and you know, I work with a lot of veterans that are near and dear to my heart, and the VA has, you know, come out and made their own statement about medical use or the medical use of marijuana, and they're not exactly, you know, standing in line to write recommendations, but they're not dropping the vets that are using it. And here in Oregon, we are considering putting PTSD into our conditions to qualify for medical marijuana. Now, I'm not saying that you have experience with PTSD, but I would imagine that you know people that do or have.
I do. And they have told me that marijuana does help with their conditions.
Okay, and have you, you know, so do you talk to a lot of vets to, you know, encourage their use of cannabis, or have you has the conversation come up much?
Yeah, Actually, I'm part of at Syracuse University. They have a veterans writing group, which I'm a member of, and we do talk about it. Most of what they talk about is they want, the writing instructors want like combat experience writing and things like that. But it does come up, the use of marijuana for alleviating PTSD, and they have asked me about, musculoskeletal disorders and people who have, problems with their legs and things from battles and things. And it definitely comes up, and it's definitely thought of as being useful.
Well, and as I'm reading through this book, you've got some really great advice, and I recommend that anybody who's interested in the book, you can go to Amazon.com. The book is available there. You can email edrcook@yahoo.com. That's edrcook@yahoo.com, and request a copy. But one of the things that I noticed that you didn't have in here, and this might, maybe because you don't have the access that we have, but two other things. You talk about soothing from the outside. Have you ever tried a medicated balm or salves for pain relief?
Yeah, I early on I tried Capacin, which I don't use anymore. I find it's too hot, and it tends to. You can't really get it off your hands that easily, and like if you go to your mouth or your eyes or your genitals, it can really, really burn. I mean, it's hard to get it off even days later. I tried this is going back to a long time ago. I read about in Sports Illustrated, DMSO. It's a horse liniment, but I find those are superficial, and they really don't hit home as some of the other methods I describe in the book. It's okay. I mean, it's good to rub where you can. But it's just a component of arthritis relief and musculoskeletal relief.
Well,
it's not.
I was more specifically referring to cannabis infused salves and oils.
Oh, I have not. No, I have not ever used any.
Now, they are pretty powerful, and then also another, because cannabis has such a powerful anti-inflammatory benefit, eating it is also something, and juicing with this is something that people are catching on to as well, to reduce inflammation and that sort of thing as well.
Absolutely. It can be baked into all kinds of different foods. And for people who want to go smokeless, I think that's a good method. That's a good point you bring up. You can ingest it orally, and it does have an effect. And I think a lot of people, because the high, if you will, the psychoactive part it's a little bit different when you eat medibles, and that could be a little bit longer, a little bit stronger than people want. Oh, I'm getting. Oh, okay. So we're about the end of our segment here. So one more time, the book is called Arthritis and Marijuana. It's written by Edward R. Cook, and you can get it on Amazon Books. And where else could they get it if they wanted to go online? Can I say you can also order that through your bookstore? It should come up in their database. You can go to Amazon. You don't necessarily have to. It's also an ebook on Kindle, Nook, and most of the other ebook platforms, tablets, and so forth.
And I've linked it all on our Facebook page too. So
thank you, Jennifer. Well, all right. Well, thank you so much, Edward. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, and I hope I contributed to your show. Thank you for having me on.
You absolutely did. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. All right. Well, you're listening to A Different View. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Papa working so hard just to get paid. We make money to spend. People want, people need, 'cause it never ends. Now, baby, it takes money, my friend. People need, people want.
You know Herb Thrasher from the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Now get ready for Herb Age Designs for the proud cannabis consumer. Herb Age Designs, lifestyle gear for the 420 friendly. Herb Age Designs, home of the famous lighter leash. Herb Age Designs, get your Herb Age t-shirts and hoodies and show your pride. Herb Age Designs, we've got Frisbee golf discs and durable hemp gear. Herb Age Designs, we've got shot glasses, drinking glasses, coffee mugs, and beer cozies. Check us out on Facebook and online at herbagedesigns.com. and follow Herb Age and Herb Thrasher on Twitter. We'll see you at this year's Hemp Fest. Crank it up.
Now we're back with A Different View.
Welcome back. You're listening to A Different View. We're doing this whole new Google Hangout show, so I hope this is working out good for our listeners.
I'm iffy on it.
I think we'll work out the kinks. If it's rough, it'll get better. It will. But so in this segment, I wanted to talk a little bit about this weekend. This was the annual pot weekend. I mean,
yes, 420. Woo!
You know, and better than most years. You know, we have it on a Saturday. What better day for stoners?
No
You
kidding.
got time to recover before you have to go back to work. It's just a great
there's
day
no
with beautiful
recover time.
weather.
Oh, yeah.
No, not recover time from smoking. Recover time from hanging out at the park all day and doing stuff.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a big festival. It's a
you
lot of walking
medicate.
around.
That's how you recover, Jennifer.
I'm just saying that you don't have to worry about getting home because you got to work in the morning or whatever.
Right.
You know, it was just a great day. And in the middle of the 420 pot rally in Denver, where it's newly legal, there was a shooting.
Now, this
And
was
of
not
course-
the High Times Cannabis Cup.
No, this was the more open. It wasn't that kind of an event. It was more of a festival, kind of like when we have, you know, like our Hemp Fest or whatever. It's just a bunch of people gathered around enjoying the pot atmosphere.
Jennifer, I have some video from 3 different angles from that shooting. I can bring that up for you if you'd like.
Yeah, if you wanted to bring that up while we're talking about it, that would be
Here we
great.
go. It's about a minute and 20. Here you go.
Go ahead. You could just show it. Go ahead.
There it goes.
So these people, I mean, they're all gathering, enjoying the fact that it's legal. And while you're not supposed to smoke in public, police turned a blind eye to it, like they've always done for 420 festivals. I mean, this isn't new with legal pot, but all the more so this year with it being so openly allowed there. But
there rarely is anything. I mean, if Seattle is, you know, Seattle Hemp Fest is a perfect testament to that. Hundreds of thousands of people come through there on a single day, and the worst thing that I've ever seen was a couple of people slapping each other and the security guards shouting them down, and they stopped. That was it. And a couple of people over medicated or too much sun. That's it.
Yeah, and that's very typical. That, I mean, when you get a big crowd of people together, you're going to have something go wrong. That's not abnormal. That's just expected with crowds of people.
Right.
I think that it really says something for the marijuana community that when we have these thousands and thousands and thousands of people, there's so little criminal activity. When you ask the security officers here in Oregon, we have a pot rally every year.
September, yeah.
It's coming up May 4th.
Yeah. Well, and then the Hemp Fest.
At Pioneer Square.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm saying this is right downtown. In that exact same square, multiple times a year, they have beer festivals.
Yep.
All those police prefer to work the pot festivals, you know, because there's a different sort of crime that comes with it, but there's always crime with a crowd. But in this particular instance, you know, it's kind of a mar on the newly legal marijuana to have a shooting, especially with everything else that's been going on nationally, which we'll talk about on the next segment.
Well, I think the thing is that a lot of these events, we take pride in not, you know, having violence. You know, we are kind of self-regulated as a community in that manner. We do take it, a lot of people don't want to, in this community, do separate ourselves from the alcohol because there is a lot of chaos surrounding alcohol, and it's much safer to be over here. I do think that because of the Boston bomber incident, and we'll get to that later, that we kind of got lucky in that, you know, we're newly legal. This could have had a catastrophic effect. And fortunately, it, because of what was going on in Boston, it didn't get the attention that it very well could have, and and could have made it very difficult for us to come out and say no, there isn't the violence with marijuana that there is with other drugs and situations.
I think it's true that it probably would have gone a lot more viral and been, oh, look, stoners, violence too, if there wasn't other news that was real, which actually does say something. I mean, the fact that this really, there was a number of shootings in Chicago on the same day,
right.
and nobody had to gather for that. And it's true in all these different cities. It's unfortunate that it happened there. And they're still looking for the people responsible. So I did post a link with the story and its current situation. They've got the gang unit there in Denver investigating. They haven't said for sure if it's gang involvement, but it's kind of looking quite likely. There was a couple of different witnesses that basically stated it.
Right. If that's the situation, well, I do appreciate that. It doesn't seem to me that that this marijuana movement has attracted the violence, that they're not putting that together. Like they will in our next story, like they have in the next story, but they didn't do that, which I appreciate. That the media has kind of that could have happened at any large gathering. There could be any large gathering. There are a number of issues that happen. In the stadiums at a ball game, people duke it out over a hot dog or things like that. So I did appreciate that the media didn't say, oh yeah, here comes the violence. Now that marijuana is legal, look at these, people shooting at each other.
Of course, there was a few people that did that, but
right. But it was a murmur,
but in this
not
particular, in this particular instance, there were only a couple of minor injuries. A man was shot in his ankle, and there was one other person that I keep kind of hearing that there was a second person injured, but it's not clear who. And then the article that I linked mentions that apparently the guy who was injured, his dog was nicked as well. So but they were all minor injuries. No,
right.
There was no deaths. There was, no seriously wounded. Which is good. It's unfortunate that anybody was shooting at one of these events. It seems like it's a bad place to do it, but any crowd, it happens. Not shootings, but violence.
Right.
Anyway, so I think there was a story. Well, not a story. A couple of posts, and I think Russ was talking a little bit about it, about the next story where the prohibitionists have latched onto that connection with marijuana, and there's a lot of things that are gonna more and more so be connected to marijuana, because marijuana sort of transcends all different barriers. There's plenty of people that I know that are completely straight but smoke marijuana, and other people that I know that are very explorative, you know what I mean? And also consume marijuana, and to see those same people sitting side by side smoking a joint together is like one of the most interesting things you can ever see. And it's the only realm that you'll ever see it in. I remember when we first started going to all of these public gatherings, we would go into these different locations and see like 90-year-old women sitting side by side with these 23-year-old guys and really talking about like real things,
Right, yeah.
And the benefits, and finding something in common, that common ground. And so it's pretty amazing. And I think that the reality is we are going to have a little bit of all kinds in our
Well, it does cross the racial and age, sex boundaries. It really does cross all boundaries. Anybody who's interested in cannabis, you can find an outlet somewhere. But going back to what you were saying, when I was one of the first Oregon Normal meetings that I went to, where patients would come in and medicate, I remember this lady who was I don't know 80 something. She'd never used cannabis before. She'd never smoked cigarettes before. She had no idea what she was doing, none at all. And she was, and in this situation, I thought, wow, how'd you find yourself here? But she came up to me and asked me a couple questions, and I introduced her to some people I trusted. And the next thing I know, they were all just chatting and laughing, and she knew what she was doing by the end of that day. So, it is nice to see, the older generation passing down advice and talking to that, because they're sharing something. And not just sharing a joint or a buzz, but they're sharing something else. And I think that's what
and the younger generation has something to share too, which is nice.
It's a blending of generations, and I think that's what brings people to this community too.
Yeah. So we need to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the big news story, the Boston Marathon, and its link to marijuana.
All right, we're listening to.
We'll be right back.
Just to buy a dime, it's the Chronic. It's so expensive. I guess I'll just buy the dirty kind. Swag, it's a little brown and dry. Really hope it gets me high before a headache starts to make my head ache. Swag, it's all right.
Hey guys, Nico Escondido, High Times Magazine, here with another video grow tip of the week. We're here in a little hydroponic garden. It's a very manageable operation. Some of you might be doing something similar at home or thinking of it. And we just wanted to show you a little bit about the feeding system, the irrigation system, if you will, that they've implemented in this grow room. Because it's one of the more popular varieties these days. It's very simple. It's a top feed hydro system. And if you just look right down here in the pot, you'll see right at the top they're using top hatch spray emitters staked into the medium, and they just are fed by spaghetti lines, and they just do a little top feed. They just spray 360 degrees all the way around. It gets even penetration. And this grower, he does it very simply. They just water for about 2 minutes per day. That's all it takes, 2 minutes per day. They got 4,000 watts running in this room, and it's going to yield somewhere around 7 pounds. And they're using a nutrient line called Black Label Nutrients. It's very simple, and it's amazing that they get these yields. If you look, the NPK ratios are very low, and with a feeding regimen of only 2 minutes per day, but you still see the weight, the chunkiness of these buds. This is an OG Pheno. It's in week 7. It'll go just past 60 days, I believe, and the yield is epic. So there you go. If you're thinking about doing some hydro, check out some top feed systems. Spray emitters are great. And you want to find a nutrient line that has a minimalistic approach, something that's not going to clog up your spaghetti lines. It's going to get, just the right amount of nutrients to the plants so that they're happy and healthy. And man, all I can say is I wish they were coming down today, but they're not. See you guys later. Nico out.
Through the water, in the sky. This song goes out to Jerry Garcia and Bob Marley.
And now we're back with A Different View.
Welcome back. You're listening to A Different View. I jumped the gun a little. So, in this segment, I want to talk a little bit about last week. There was a pretty big tragedy at the Boston Marathon. There was 2 bombs that exploded. 3 people died. Almost 180, I think, were injured.
Yeah,
a lot of people
limbs.
had to have legs amputated, and it was a very intense week with trying to determine what happened, searching down suspects, and at the end of the week, it culminated with them killing one of the suspects and apprehending the other. And he was not even in custody. He may not have even been in custody yet, but he was definitely, it was less than 24 hours after he was in custody before they had made a link to marijuana to this story. And in this particular story, it started with one of his classmates. They were interviewing multiple different classmates trying to find out about the history of these 2 brothers. One of his classmates said he was a normal pothead.
What? It's a normal pothead.
I think we're all normal pothead.
I was going to say.
I don't know. No, like I was just saying, a normal pothead, there's no such thing. But just like there's no such thing as a normal person, though. It's the same thing.
I'm sure the person that made that comment was probably thinking, "Oh, just no big deal. They're just like a normal, neighbor."
And there's a lot of there's a lot of connotations to that statement, and coming from up here, it's a laid back individual that because a pothead's not going to go blow something up. I mean, just it's not stereotypically at least in our nature, and that's not to say that there isn't somebody who smokes pot who's also violent. I'm sure there are, but when we're talking about a stereotype, and basically when we're describing people, we're kind of he's a prep, that's a stereotype.
We have a tendency to label people good or bad.
But it's created an image now, and so I think the image of a pothead is somebody who's laid back, who's so high that they don't have the energy to argue with you. They just kind of smile, want to hit this,
exactly.
That's the stoner image that's been painted. So I think by making that statement, they were trying to say what was repeated, throughout other stories, is that they were unlikely suspects as far as anybody knew. They seemed to be average, laid-back people. But so as soon as that story came out, then just a short time later, another story comes out linking the other brother, the older dead
oldest
brother.
one. Yeah.
And said that he was connected to a situation that took place in the same general area, from what I understand, but in 2010, and it was the murder of 3 friends, and they have never identified suspects, so this is still an open case. And apparently he is friends with at least one of the guys that was killed, so now they're suspecting him as possibly, because he's now a dead terrorist,
right.
Now they're saying, well, maybe there's something to the fact that he was friends with these guys, so there's not there's been a link to the deaths, only new questions raised by this situation. But in that story, those 3 bodies were apparently found just covered in marijuana. So
let me read the
created another marijuana link.
Let me read the thing. It says the victims were found in a Wadham, Massachusetts apartment. They had their throats slashed, their heads were nearly decapitated, their mutilated bodies were left covered with marijuana. To me, that sounds like someone rushing to try to change the scene. You know what I mean? If they were indeed covered with marijuana,
I don't know what that is.
I mean, it just seems like somebody was setting a scene or something. I don't know. I mean, maybe I watched too much CSI, but now there is that link, and I believe Russ was tweeting with somebody this past weekend where they were saying that it creates violence, and they were linking both the bomber and now it's time to talk about, the violence that surrounds marijuana. And, most people who've used cannabis or have been near people that use cannabis all know that the opposite is generally the truth. And I think by now, even those people who don't use it kind of, like you said, Jen, understand the stereotype. So they're not really making that link. They know it's a contrived link.
Yeah. And I think what stood out to me in this particular story is the most interesting is, for one, to have these bodies be covered in marijuana. I was like, wow, I've never heard in life. I had never heard this story at all. Like it just sounded to me like one of those stories that I would have heard. And so I went to go look and try to figure out, what's this with the marijuana? And all I could find was this one fellow who in the media had said he had heard somebody running out of the home claim that there was blood everywhere and marijuana all over the bodies.
Right, so he wasn't a first-hand account.
I tried to find confirmation and I couldn't find it. That's not to say that law enforcement hasn't confirmed it, but it wasn't easy to find. But then I found this guy's name in an arrest report in the exact same neighborhood 3 days after that situation.
And what is his name?
It's Jeffrey Lang. I'll post it on our Facebook, but Jeffrey Langhart. Let me get it. But anyway, apparently he was arrested for breaking into a shed of one of the other neighbors and trying to rob them of their pot that was in a safe. So a third pot connection, but trying to rob them of their marijuana that was stored in a safe and threatened them with a gun or something. Some other people showed up, and he's like, oh, I'll kill you if you tell the police, and he takes off running. And he's arrested for this whole, because of course they told the police.
I'd hope so.
And so he's arrested, but nobody has been arrested in the murder situation yet. But so he was the only person I could find that even sourced that marijuana was present there. And so I don't know what that whole scene was like. It sounds like he had a lot of knowledge about the marijuana around town. I don't know if there was a story there, but
maybe he's the link.
Yeah, maybe it was his pot.
Maybe.
Who knows? Either way, it's just the fact that there was this marijuana link to this very huge tragedy. Now the real irony comes for me as a cigarette smoker, that when they found the suspect, that the one remaining brother at the end of all of this, ongoing drama, there was a shutdown of the city, there was a manhunt with all agencies involved, there was all kinds of stuff going on. And they had finally said, you know what, everybody, you can come out, go about your business. We're still looking for him. Be vigilant, and so people come outside, and after they had been locked in their house, 15 hours, I don't know how long it was a long time. It was pretty much all day long, from early in the morning or the night before, kind of, all the way through until late this evening, or not that evening. Anyway, the guy that discovers where this kid is a cigarette smoker, and he steps
the guy that owns the boat
to have. Yes, he steps out to have a cigarette and saw blood on his boat. Well, he had been inside all day, so he hadn't seen it. And the guy in the boat is the guy that was the normal pothead. So I personally found it kind of ironic that it was the cigarette smoker that was the hero and the pothead that was the villain.
That's funny.
So anyway, just, having that connection to the story, I think that anytime you have one of these emotional stories, everybody sort of latches onto it and
well, everybody wants to know
cause.
why. I think they have to figure out. I think there's comfort in knowing why and understanding that, because if you can understand why somebody might do that, maybe you can prevent it in the future. I think people's curiosity has more to do with their fear and trying to resolve their fear than anything else. I haven't heard the legs that you've had with this cannabis link. I find it interesting that with all the other stuff that they had, that they have found out, about these two men, that cannabis would even be an issue at all. But I think, there's that unsolved murder, and maybe there's something there. I don't know. But I don't think that it has created the.
I was going to say it's a much bigger argument than I think we have time for. But I think that this cannabis link isn't being made by anybody in authority. I don't think that any law enforcement has said that they found marijuana in his his apartment, or that they found marijuana on his person, or any drugs of any sort whatsoever, or any claims that he used it. It's the media that interviews some guy that once knew some guy who says something that's clipped in such a way that it creates an image. And these guys may have never smoked pot. We don't even know. But it's
a way of keeping
said
it's
loud
a way
enough.
It's a way of keeping the controversy going, I think. I think it's a way that it keeps the blood in the game, if you will, and what they say, if it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead. So I think this is kind of one of those things where people are looking, for something to keep the sensationalism going. I think Jennifer's having a little bit of problems with her mic.
I'm here. I just had to check on something,
a quick break here.
I
think with Hummer and the Cannabis Connection, I don't think it's. Oh, okay. But yeah, I don't think that this is something that law enforcement is taking seriously, or sees this as much more than a distraction. I think they certainly like to figure out what the unsolved murders have to do with these two gentlemen, but I don't think that cannabis is something that they're looking as a useful direction to chase down why or what's going on here.
Right. Like I said, I think it's just these different groups latching onto things for their own arguments and their own benefit. Mm-hmm.
Did I lose you, Jen?
No, I'm here. So we're going to cut to a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in California, like we were saying earlier, a little bit of intimidation tactics from the DEA. We'll be right back.
All right.
It's that left coast maniac back on the loose with a pound of the chronic and a pint full of juice. Those juice on my lap, always strapped with a glass piece. High as a kite, out of sight from the police. Hair grease, rolling like a rebel. Old school punk rock, horny white devil. Daddy X, you know how I ride. So pack up your pipe, cause everything's fake when you're high.
And now, another episode of Cannabis Shakespearean Theatre. I'm your host, Leonard Pimp Garnell III. Tonight we revel in the hilarity of acquiring cannabis when miscommunication occurs between the cannabis delivery service and the consumer. The Royal Shakespearean Cannabis Theatre Company presents the classic David's Not Present piece, made famous by Richard Marin and Thomas Chong. Enjoy.
Hark! Who goes there?
It is I, David. Pray grant me immediate passage, good sir. I come bearing a package of great import.
Hark! Who goes there?
It is I, David, as I previously informed you. Make haste in unlatching this portal, for I believe the constable hath cast his visage upon me. I bring you the packet you seek.
'Tis David?
Affirmative, my good man, 'tis David. Now open this door forthwith.
David's not present.
For Cannabis Shakespearean Theatre, I'm Leonard Pimp Garnell III.
Georgia. Hi, this is Willie Nelson, and I need your help. Our marijuana laws are terribly unfair, and they make criminals out of law-abiding citizens. Nearly 2,000 Americans are arrested every day on marijuana charges, and we are unfairly destroying the lives and careers of hundreds of thousands of people simply because they smoke marijuana. These are not criminals. They are average citizens like you, good neighbors who work hard, raise families, pay taxes, and contribute to their communities. And it's time we stopped arresting responsible marijuana smokers. We need your help to end marijuana prohibition once and for all. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
Yeah. Tell him, sir. The chalice, man. Acha. Now this one going out to one ganja smoker. Can't deny tell and say complaints a child will smoke the ganja make your wife a fit and strong. And this one is.
And now we're back with A Different View.
All right,
welcome
back.
You're listening to a different view. We'll figure this out. There's a little delay in talking to each other as well. In this segment, we're going to talk a little bit about California.
Yes.
In California, they were the first medical marijuana state out of, 18 now? I know we're about
18.
to add more, but 18 currently, and then D.C.
Mm-hmm.
And California was the first. They were the trendsetter on this, and they're also the one that's pointed to as, wide open, that it's, but needless to say.
The good and the bad example. But yeah, California is where people point to when they want to point out something not doing, something bad.
Right. And then in 2010, they voted on legalization, Prop 19, and there was a lot of different factors that came up during that discussion that ended with a no vote. But ultimately, I think everybody expects California to eventually legalize. They're considered liberal, wide open like that. But meanwhile, Washington and Colorado ended up being the first states to legalize. So California still has their medical marijuana law, which is pretty wide open. I mean, pretty much under their law, it really is. If I just think marijuana will make me happier, I can get a recommendation for it. A stress relief, whatever. It really is that open. If your doctor agrees that this could help you, you can have it. But they had 63 of the different dispensaries threatened and shut down this week. It comes from Courthouse News Service, and I'm going to link this up on our Facebook page in just 1 minute. It's federal officials on Thursday moved against 63 illegal marijuana stores in the city of Santa Ana, the U.S. Attorney's Office said. Federal prosecutors executed 2 search warrants and filed 3 asset forfeiture complaints against Santa Ana properties, where a total of 7 marijuana stores are currently operating, the U.S. Attorney's Office said in a statement. Prosecutors sent warning letters to people associated with 56 other stores not involved in the forfeiture actions. The federal actions involve all known marijuana stores in the city of Santa Ana, according to the statement. This part is the part that really sort of caught my eye. It says Californians and the federal government have been fighting legal battles over medical marijuana for years. The federal government appears to be winning.
I know. I'm like, maybe they haven't noticed that Oregon and Washington legalized, and they haven't. Colorado, excuse me. And they haven't. There. Sorry, I know. I was hoping. But maybe they didn't pay attention to the recent polls. I don't know about winning so much.
Yeah, definitely not winning. I mean, definitely they're proving to be quite frustrating. Don't get me wrong, but they are not winning. But the fact that they're moving in California currently to sort of fight back against their marijuana stores. Now, California did like I said, have the wide open medical marijuana. They did pass another initiative that allowed for dispensing medical marijuana. They've had a lot of fighting between their state law and their local area regions, cities, counties, whatever, wanting to ban it, but their state law allows it. So they've got the federal, state, local conflict going on.
Right.
And this really provides a good opportunity for the federal government to sort of send intimidation throughout the nation by showing what they can do with medical marijuana without having to address if legalization changes that discussion.
Right. I lost my point, but there was something else I was reading in here in this article about the asset forfeiture, and it seems to me 63 different cannabis clubs, and if you were to go in there and they were to seize the assets of all of those clubs, which would also be their revenue or bank accounts and any of that stuff, it seems to me that there's an incentive for them, for the local and the federal and the state to encourage these kinds of snatch and grabs, as I call them, where they come in there, close everything down, grab everything, and then nobody gets their stuff back. But 63 different dispensaries. I mean, where do they expect patients to go to? Back to the unregulated market?
Well, of course. And they do go on to list the different locations that were impacted by this. It's the Green Love Collective, the dispensary store, the SoCal Compassion, Club Meds, and Wellgreens, which all apparently share a building.
Right.
And J Pacific Life, which included multiple stores, it looks like, Saddleback Meds and the Natural Alternative and Healing OC. It does not indicate in this news release, though, if there's any particular reason why these stores were targeted for these raids. And because it's federal officials, they don't need a reason. It can just be because we want it to.
Right. Well, and and I wonder, I'd like to know if these individuals were they like a dispensary and a clinic in the same spot.
I'm not familiar with. I've heard of a couple of these, but I'm not familiar with them, and I don't know anything about how they operate or anything to know if there was anything that would be questionable. But I think ultimately it doesn't matter if they are. I think right now the federal government wants to raise the public cry to save us from drugs. They want that 80s passion back. And you know,
with your brain on drugs. Yeah.
People have really moved beyond that way of thinking. Actually, ironically, and I probably should find a link for this, but I was reading about Gil Kerlikowske, who just recently commented on legalization in Colorado and Washington. It sounds like it was in passing, not like a formal statement, but that he basically said that we should be focusing on treatment and that we should be focusing on education. And he's the man in charge of enforcing. You know, like they're the ones that are getting the money.
Well, is he in charge of enforcing? But he's in charge of enforcing, but he may not be in charge of, you know, the policy, creating the policy.
He definitely fuels the policy, though.
Well, sure, but I'm go ahead.
I was going to say he's definitely pro-prohibition. He's made multiple statements in the past, and his job requires him to be pro-prohibition.
I got to tell you, Jen, when I was reading this, you know, this article, you know, when they were saying, you know, the federal government appears to be winning, and you know, we're trying the same old approach, and what you were saying, want to go back to the 80s. What I find really interesting about that is it appears to me that this is that same old, I don't want to offend anybody, old boys club, still applying the same tactics. We're going to change hearts and minds at the end of a barrel, you know, with a bullet. It's that same, you know, hit them over the head, kind of whack-a-mole kind of approach, thinking that the more moles that we whack, you know, they'll eventually move out. And the problem won't be ours, and it won't be, you know, ours to deal with, because they won't be in our front yard. They'll be in my neighbor's yard. And all
until my neighbor does the same thing and they come back.
Right. Well, you know, what happens is some of these 63 will close down. Some of them will be raided. Some of them may survive this, or they may close and reopen somewhere else. Or when you glean out the competition, then there's going to be more that pop up. The thing is that, you know, the lid has been lifted off the can. Sorry, I'm cliche challenged too. But it seems to me that this is that old approach, but they're not solving the problem, because as they close, one another will open up. I mean, as we've seen here, how many are in the Multnomah County here? 140, something like that, of safe access places? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have the numbers. I don't know. I don't think anybody has the numbers, but they pop up all the time.
All the time. And it's the same thing. If they go and they close one, they'll have another one pop up. One closes down, you know, and this is just another way of gleaning out the competition. I find it kind of interesting that they think that they're winning. I mean, but I guess there's two ways to look at this. If you're prosecuting a lot of people and you're, you know, if you have low standards, I guess this is a way of winning. Or, you know, if you lock up more people, I don't know. I'd like to know their definition of winning.
I'll get in their way.
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely not winning. I did find the article from Gil Kerlikowske, I think. It says that the administration's policy over the next 4 years will focus on providing treatment options through the Affordable Care Act and supporting drug courts that divert nonviolent drug offenders from prison.
But they just cut the budget.
Well, they said this is what the drug policy looks like. It's emphasizing prevention over incarceration. That's what it looks like today. So he believes we're already doing that, and we're not. And that's
no, we're not. Well, it's just a new jailhouse, as Russ likes to say. It's just a new jailhouse, another holding place for prisoners. A system where it's just clogged up, where people waiting to get treatment. There are thousands of people who are arrested but are never charged or waiting for arraignment even. And I can tell you of a few that I know, firsthand. I don't even know why they bother. Why not work with us? Because it's coming. Why not work with us?
Well, we need to get cut to the end of the show, but you can check us out on Facebook at A Different View 420, and on Twitter, ADV420, our website, ADV420.com, and next week, 8 p.m. Pacific Time, here at 420radio.org.
That's right. Well, thanks for joining us. Have a wonderful week. We will talk to you next week at the same time. 420radio.org. You can catch our show and many other shows. I know I got something right tonight. Many other shows. Check out Herb Show, the Lively Libra, There's so many. There's so many different good shows.
They're all
on the 420 radio show.
420radio.org website where you can link straight to it.
Right, and you join, be a member, support the cause, and support getting the news and the information out there. This is where activists are born and learn to be activists for this cause.
We'll see you next week.
And you'd like it a lot, or you'd say fuck liquor. I'd rather smoke pot. It don't make me hungover or act like an ass. You ought to give up drinking, start smoking grass. You ought to give up drinking, start smoking grass.